Welcome, my dear friends. I'm Stephen Clements, a writer, a gamer, and an appreciator of big brain activities in general. On this channel, I perform dramatic story readings, provide role-playing game and movie reviews, and I get to talk to interesting people. In this episode, we're going to be talking to an interesting person about a role-playing game that I just reviewed, Top Secret's The Drop. A great teaching module. I enjoyed it, and I couldn't find a whole lot about it online. So this video is my contribution to the historical corpus of knowledge about the role-playing game hobby as expressed through this teaching module. I went online, looked for Solarian Games, found their Facebook page, sent them a message asking to talk to one of its creators, and Peter Bryant got back to me. So he gave me a bunch of insights into what went into the creation of The Drop and a whole lot more about his thinking regarding the adventure design concepts that go into the entire Top Secret line. I found it an interesting conversation. I know you will too. My dear friends, welcome new dear friend Peter Bryant to the show. As we've already talked about, I took a look at his Top Secret module, The Drop, and I liked it, so I reached out to see who I could talk to that was in the creative team, and I found Peter. So I got him on the camera. Everybody welcome Peter to the show.
Hey, everybody. Good to be here.
Yes, sir. And as I say in my review, I love the module y'all came up with here and how good a job it does at preparing new administrators, whether they're new to running a game altogether or if they're just new to Top Secret for running an espionage mission. I think it does a fantastic job. So that's going to be a central theme of the questions I've got for you. Because I just can't emphasize enough how important it is to train up the next generation of people to run games. So let's start with what inspired Solarian to make this module.
Top Secret came out. I sort of came in like really late on that project. They had already written the game. They'd already had everything ready to go. I was friends with the guys, and that was when they were asking me to jump in and say, hey, could you help out with some stuff? And I was like, sure, yeah, absolutely. I put the video together for the Kickstarter. That was actually my jump in point on Top Secret. Like the Kickstarter went up, everything was written, everything was designed, and my contribution was the video. So when you look at the box set or the original stuff, the only thing I contributed to was the Kickstarter. But then I was on board for everything ever since then. And so a couple of people that we saw were playing Top Secret and talking about it, but not enough, not a lot. Like we sold a bunch of copies and then it was kind of crickets a little bit. And we were wondering, what's going on? So we talked to people, go to conventions, we're talking to people. And I think the common theme that came about, the thing that would keep people from playing it on the regular or running games at conventions a whole lot was the fact that creating a mission, because we don't call them modules or adventures, they're missions, right? Creating a mission for Top Secret has a little bit of a learning curve or a barrier to entry, right? Because it's not like, oh, it's a dungeon and there's an evil wizard and you go, those are easy to get into. People have been doing it forever. And even like superhero adventures or sci-fi adventures, very easy to get people into adventures because they're typically not real world modern day adventures. Because in the modern day, we live this normal life where there are no monsters running around or dragons to kill or anything like that.
Yeah, and if you're running D&D, it is a perfectly acceptable thing for you to say, here's a random encounter. That's what we're going to build our campaign out of. So you line up and you fight a bunch of bags of hit points. But in this setting, just going around beating up everyone you meet is a bad idea.
Right, exactly. And because when the game was made, and this goes back to Merle back in the days, it's the organization of Icon. And so Icon is an independent agency separate from any government. So when they get called in on a mission, there's plausible deniability. They don't exist. So that's another barrier for people to write adventures. It's like, well, what do? They don't get hired. They do good stuff in the world and they're often at odds with different governments. How do you write a mission for that? And so that was the inspiration for this. We decided that we needed to really give people tools to okay, that's the biggest opposition. We don't have to teach people about the world because everybody knows the world, right? I mean, it's the world. Pull up Google Maps. There you go. That's where your adventure is. So that was easy. And the hard part has been tackling that. So a good chunk of the stuff we've been doing has been tackling that aspect because it is the number one barrier. So the drop it's part of a series we call Black Ops missions. They are simple, easy missions, short missions. They're 4 hours at best. They're great for conventions. They're great for starter campaigns and stuff. And the drop is basically a drop is a spy term. So if I'm going to get something from you, but we're not going to just like meet up in a bar or we're not going to meet up in a conference room. I'm going to go, here you go. I'm going to sell this thing to you and you're going to buy this knock list. No, a drop is usually something where you put it in a package. Maybe you do that secret little handoff as you see drug dealers do, or you're going to tape it to the back of a garbage can and then the other person's going to come and get it. That's a drop. So we chose that aspect as the main thing of this mission. The mission is literally one drop that's going to happen and you guys are going to be involved in it. The original draft of this was written by Chad Parrish. He wrote a chunk of text, basically spelling it out like this is how it starts, this is the middle, and sort of the end. Not real complex, but the basics of it. Chad worked on the original Top Secret and everything, so he's a pretty good writer and everything, but I think he got involved in other stuff or whatever, but it was kind of sitting around and we decided, hey, let's put that out. We got a good chunk of this done, let's put it out. So when I got a hold of it, I looked at it and I said, well, there's not enough for like a book here. Like this would be like a PDF download, maybe 10 pages or whatever, which is perfectly fine for an adventure for something really small. But we wanted
like a free zine or something like that.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. But we wanted to make a little book out of it. So I don't know if people can see it, but this is, it's a nice little, it's a cute little book, To do that, I felt like it needed to be beefed up a little bit. And that's where I started throwing in my concepts of there's all these different options, made sure there was a lot of intro text into it. Like you're saying, you're reading through it and it says, this is how this is going to be set up. And there's instructions in the book itself of this is how you want to start stuff out. Don't tell them this, tell them that. You can embellish here. Watch out for your players. They'll slip you up, just stuff like that. All that kind of stuff is in there. And then a bunch of options for like, you can add this in if you want to make it more complex or that. And then here's some complications you could put in, but don't have to be in there. Whenever I do write a mission, I like it to be replayable if possible. Right. I like replayability. So you buy the book one time, but hell, you can run it a bunch of times. Right. And every time you run it, it could be a little different. So like Rendezvous Oasis was one that Merle had written years and years ago. And we decided to revamp that, modernize it. And I took it from I think it was like an 18-page mission to like a 96-page mission. I just added all this stuff in. I just went crazy with it. But every time you play it, it can be a completely different adventure. There will always be this one common bit to it, but all the stuff around it is pliable.
Well, so that's value for your money.
Yeah.
And that's straight up what that is.
And another core concept to this, and I think one of the things that helps make it more flexible and helps the game master with other adventures that they want to do, is that it doesn't have to be where it's set and it doesn't have to be with the people. It's more of an outline, and then the stuff we added in is more of like an example of the outline. So the mission itself is really kind of like, here's how you do it, and here's the different pieces to it. Here's the beginning, the middle, the end, and all the stuff that could happen in it. And by the way, none of this is set in stone. Change the bad actors out for different bad actors, change the location out for a different location, but you can keep almost the rest of it pretty much the same. It's set in London, doesn't have to be in London, could be in New York City, could be in a train station, doesn't matter.
This thing works so well on two different levels. One, you could just pick it up and play it right out of the box. Not a problem. And the way that y'all help coach the administrator into running the game, it was helpful and supportive without being condescending ever.
No.
Like I didn't feel like my intelligence was being insulted at any point. And some modules have done that. Particularly older TSR modules, they got real browbeating, and a lot of vampire modules are terrible about that.
Oh, really? I've only played vampire as a player. I've never actually run a module for it, so I didn't know that.
Oh, okay. They are awful, dude. They know how to make setting, and they know how to give ideas, and they're awful at operationalizing it. Their novels are crap too, but I digress. But also, you're giving folks a framework. Like you've been talking about, this is a structure of a drop, and then here's all these fiddly bits and variables you can change so you can fine tune this to a shorter experience, to a longer experience. You can make an entire campaign centered around a drop, and the fact of the kind of ramifications and after effects that could come from it that y'all just toss out there as ideas, but enough of an idea if somebody wanted to do something with it, they could. It's a rich database of ideas, man. So y'all did a great job.
Thank you. And it's funny too, because I'm like you say that, and it's like it's a little book. There's not a lot here. I mean,
no,
it's funny because this book took me a long time to actually wrap this up because I put a lot of thought into it. I kept going back around. I was like, all right, so how do I do this? How do I do that? And then I'd read through it and I'd go, oh, okay. well, if this happens, then I could go back and then I would go back to a later section, go, all right, well, if this happens, then do this. Because I would just run through my mind of all the different things that could happen as I read through it. And oh, well, that leads to this. And then there's a couple places where I have different sections like, okay, if this happens, then this, if this happens, then this. And then you go back to the earlier part of it says, blah, 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 blah. Oh, and if this happens, go to section such and such and use that. And then the biggest part of it that I was really trying to achieve was making sure that this was a really good introduction to a bigger adventure. So there's a whole thing that happens at the end. And if it goes a certain way, it doesn't tell you what to do at the next place, but it tells you go to France and do this because that's where they'll be and take it from there. Or this one actually could lead into Rendezvous Oasis really easy because if the drop could be the MacGuffin that is in Rendezvous Oasis, and now you have to go to Chad to go get the thing that got away from you. So
Okay.
that was very intentional.
So we've got this example of how to do a drop
Mhm.
and how to foil a drop, how to intercept it, all the different ways a drop could go. Do y'all have other modules for other types of espionage stories?
Yeah, we do. As a matter of fact, I got this one ready. This is Operation Landfall,
Okay.
which is very much like the drop. It's in the same concept, but we wanted to do what is it like to do an infill, right? To
Nice.
get into a country. And this one's getting into Algeria and doing a mission. And again, it has all the same variables. It doesn't have to be Algeria, it could be anywhere, right? Could be any other bad actor. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in here of things that could happen. And we did this one with Scott Congable. So Scott is one of our, what you would call an Uber fan. He's one step away from being one of us, right? Like just like this close. And this one is again, it's just about the same size, got the same kind of stuff in it, right? Same format and everything. But it basically tells you how to get into a country, do a little thing, and then get out. It talks about things like how you would insert somebody and how you would interact with the military. So it helps you understand that while Icon is covert and, sort of invisible to society, they have contacts within military governments and they all do kind of work together. And it almost always boils down to like a plausible deniability type of thing or something where the United States, it's not always the United States because sometimes they go against the United States. They don't work for the United States. They could be working with Russia because the United States is doing something messed up or whatever. It doesn't matter. They have no allegiance to any country. But
We've
in
been
this
known to do things like
yeah,
that. So
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
got you.
It happens. So in this one, you are working with the U.S. military and going into Algeria because the government suspects something going on that's pretty bad, but they can't get involved. If they get implicated in it, it could stir up a whole storm of things. So
Yeah.
Icon goes in to take care of business. I got one that I'm working on in the background. One of the plot points is that Icon goes in because if the people find out that they were revealed, it will reveal their mole because the only way you could have gotten that information was from this person. But if Icon goes in and does it and they act the way they do, there's no way that they would reveal that mole. But if like a government agency were to find out, they would know. They'd be able to figure it out. They'd be able to go, oh, the Americans came in. It's not the Americans, but if the Americans came in, they'd be like, oh, that guy, it's Bill. Bill told on us because we would know that. So that was the reason why Icon was brought in because they needed to make sure that their mole was protected because they want to keep that mole there.
That's great. And so I'm glad that you've got these training wheel products that
Mhm.
can also be used to support more sophisticated missions of the administrator's own design in the future because, the Metal Gear games, wildly successful, the James Bond franchise, it's been around for decades because people like this stuff. But how do you take an abstract rule system and operationalize it to make it to something that you can play with? This is an important step in that process of helping folks get up to speed on it. Because some people, they take to it like a duck to water. They already know what they're doing. Good for them. Not everybody's like that. I think I might have a leg up because I'm used to more social interaction style games like Vampire, but that's a pretty small niche. And even that is a little bit different than what's going on here. So thank y'all for developing those products to help folks get caught up to speed. In writing this, did you look at any other teaching modules from another system or another company to help get some ideas of what are the key lessons I need to give to new administrators? What are some of the points I need to hit? Or was this just genius that came out of your mind and I guess Jason Elliott's mind and Chad's mind?
Let's not go to genius. Maybe, maybe just good ideas. No, it didn't come from any other modules or anything.
Okay.
I thought about this because you sent me some questions, things I should think about and be prepared for, which I'm really thankful for because it gave me a chance to really reflect on this.
Yeah.
So I thought about it and I'm like, where the hell does this kind of stuff come from? It's like I've had multiple people tell me I do a pretty good job with this stuff. I think where it really comes from is the fact that I'm a project manager and I'm an engineer. So I'm a problem solver. I work for the government and I do not always, but there have been plenty of projects I've had where I've done a prototype engineering for the Army. So my day-to-day job is having to think about this thing we're making. How is it going to be made? What is the user interface going to be like? What kind of problems are they going to run into? How do we fix this? How do we maintain it? How do we support it? How do all this stuff? And then I've also worked on the other end of that, doing what's called maintenance engineering, where you have to look at a product that's going out, in this case to the warfighter, and you have to say, all right, what kind of problems are going to happen with this? Like I'm looking at it, it's designed, it's built, this is it, this is what's going out. How do we maintain this so they can stay on point, minimize injuries and stuff like that? So then I have to look at this stuff and go, oh, well, you're using aluminum there. Aluminum, good chance that's going to crack. You're going out in the desert. These are electronic components. You're going to have to make sure you keep them out of the sun because of heat load. Just all that kind of stuff, right? Oh, yeah. What are soldiers going to do once they get this in their hands? Because soldiers, I mean, you could drop a naked soldier in a desert with an anvil and he'll break it in 30 minutes. So
I hadn't heard that story before, but as
right,
a former soldier, can
right,
verify. Yeah.
right. It's what we call soldier. We try to make things as soldier proof as possible, although that's impossible. That is literally impossible. But I
Joe
mean,
Snuffy is so creative.
right. Like I put they weren't laptops. They were like kind of like tablets, but really ruggedized, like super like really ruggedized. And we had them in this vehicle and they had to interact with the thing. The guys were trying to figure out which one we're going to buy. The guy was sitting at the table with me and he's showing it to me. I'm like, man, these look really tough. I said, how tough are these? Like, can they, if you drop it, is it going to be fine? Like, what kind of drop test stuff? He takes it and just throws it over his shoulder and it goes bouncing down the hall. And then he goes back and gets it, hands it to me. And I'm like, oh my, yeah, all right. He's like, I've dropped one of these down the steps 100 times to test its strength. Yeah. So we're just used to doing that. That's just sort of like my everyday thing, like making sure what questions are people going to have? What are they going to ask? Trying to like use my psychic powers to determine what are people going to do with this. So I think that's where it comes from.
You've really drank deep from the well of quality assurance planning.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Folks at home, pay attention to everything he just talked about. This is important.
Right.
Thinking through how something's supposed to work and how you keep it working.
Right.
If you do that, your life will be so much better. And your game creation process, which is what he's talking about right here, is what do I need to give these people to run a game? What are the necessary elements? I'm going to spell it out for them. I'm going to make it nice, easy, and digestible. And one of the things I like about the verbiage you use is the simplicity of it is a strength.
Yes.
And yet there's some cool terms in the back, but no one has to have any insider knowledge to understand what's going on here at all. And so the principles you were just talking about, I see exactly what you did and how that applied to writing this module. So it worked.
It's funny when I got a review for I'll hold this one. I got Rendezvous Ace is one of the ones I was talking about. We got a review for this one. Merle wrote the original again. Like I said, it was about 16 pages, 18, but then I tacked on another like 50 pages or something. So the guy who reviewed it really liked it. He said, but you know what? It was interesting. I started reading this and it read kind of like a government document, like it was written by a government person. I started laughing because it's like, well, you are very perceptive. He's like, but once I got used to it, as soon as I got used to it, he said it didn't take long. He's like, it was really nice, very easy to read. And I was like, yeah, well, we have to be. It has to be. Our documentation has to be very easy because I mean, there could be a guy riding in the back of a truck through the desert reading the manual.
Yep. And he has to be able to use that information in a meaningful way because lives might depend on it. And then other people that work in the government or for or with them, you can make no assumptions about their level of understanding of anything.
Correct.
And you need them to be able to understand what you're trying to get across. So
absolutely.
Good work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes,
so these skill sets he's talking about, being able to speak in a way your audience can understand, no matter who that might be. If they can read, can they understand what you're saying?
Yep.
Yes.
And I would say another key element to doing all of this and getting it done in a way that works and delivers the product I was talking about is, and it might not sound right at first, but I don't know, I think it does in a way, is having humility. You write with humility. So like you were saying with the vampire folk, when they wrote their stuff, if it comes off condescending, well, they're going to naturally assume that they know what they're writing. Like, oh, I know what I'm writing. You didn't get that, right? Well, that's going to lead you to write stuff that may not be easy to follow because you're holding it to whatever standards you set it to instead of being humble and saying, hey, let's keep this at a regular level for regular people.
Yeah. And speaking of regular people, have you gotten any war stories or mission stories, as the case may be, from folks who have played this that really stick in your mind?
Yeah. I've run it a couple times, but the one that sticks out the most was uh well, actually, no, there's two. Well, there's two. There's two. I'll give you two. There's the one I ran, the one that Jason ran. So Jason ran one. I'll start with his. Jason ran one, and we always give people an opportunity to ask for some extra equipment. So like we
Okay.
list some stuff in there you can have, but they're like, here's the mission, blah blah blah. You got your team has 30 minutes to figure out if there's any extra stuff you want. What might you want to request? And one guy requested a drone shaped like a duck. So he wanted a drone he could put in the water that had like a camera and stuff and looked like a duck, and he could drive around because it's on a bridge and there's water. So that
More
was kind of
proof that
funny.
birds are fake, right?
Yeah, you're right, exactly. Yes, birds aren't real. And
That's
since
smart.
that, Jason has vowed that the next edition of Top Secret is going to have a duck drone in it because of that. Um, and the other one was it was really funny. So they were doing the mission, and one of the players, had captured all the information that had actually completed the mission. But you know how players are. You give them a simple mission. All you got to do is go witness this and report back what you saw. That's the basic mission. You don't have to do anything beyond that. You do that. And of
Yeah.
course, there's other options you can put in there, but everybody always they want to. Well, I'm gonna try and capture the guy. It's like oh, you can. That's not required, but sure. Well, the other guys start to do that, and Mary, she's like, "We got the information." I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "I'll walk away." I was
Done.
like, "That's awesome." I was like, and she's like, she starts such a positive. I'm sorry, I just figured that's what happened. I was like, "No, Mary, that's perfect. That's actually freaking brilliant. That's exactly what you should
Yes.
do." If you were watching a James Bond movie, he's like the worst spy ever, right? Because everybody knows his name, everybody sees him. If
Yup.
he shows up, hell breaks loose, right? If James Bond was a really good spy, there'd be no movie because you'd never see him. You know what I mean? Like nobody would ever see him. So it
Yeah.
was really cool. So those are the two that I could think of off the top of my head.
Oh, wow. I like it. So we feed into a conspiracy theory that continues to bear fruit,
Yeah.
and a player actually had the brave and stunning insight. I did what I was sent to do. I should leave now.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Exactly.
that is such an unexpected thing out of a player. Oh my God, it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, man. So the next module that you said you're working on one, is that also in this teaching series or is that a larger module?
So the stuff I've been writing lately, so for the past couple of months, I haven't actually been working on any of these formal printed modules. What I
Okay.
have been working on is our Patreon. So we started a Patreon back in March. I mean, we weren't going to do that because we're like, oh, great, another thing we have to do on top of all the other stuff we have to do.
Yeah.
And we'd have been avoiding it, but we went to Page, so the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo. We went to page number 2 and we sat in on a panel. Now, normally I sit on panels and I'll get maybe a little bit of information out of it. Like I've been running games and playing games forever. I've been making games for a long time. So it's hard for me to pick up new stuff. But, I try and, I go and maybe I'll learn something here or there. And this one, it was excellent. It was excellent. The best panel I've ever sat on. They're the ones that convinced us to do the Patreon because what they had told us was they said, look, you're thinking about it all wrong. You don't have to make new stuff. Make stuff, let people look at it, keep it in the beta format, to where it's not like you're not doing the finishing touches. It's still room for improvement, and all that stuff. And then let people download that and play with it and operate with it. And you'll get feedback. It'll also prompt you to keep your deadlines and moving and creating stuff. And it really has been. I've been putting out close to, I don't know, roughly about 40 to 50 pages a month of material.
That's a lot.
It is. So a good chunk of the things I've been doing is still playing into that whole getting people involved. These aren't particularly teaching things, but they, in some kind of way, they are because they're the series I've been doing. They're called the World Books. So I pick a country every month. I pick a country, and then we made up our own corporations because we wanted to have corporations in the game that you could interact with, because corporations, they do stuff in the world, and
Yeah, yeah.
they're fun to mess with. But we made up all our own because we didn't want, first off, if spies are getting involved and bad stuff is happening, and you don't want to be the person who is saying some company is doing bad stuff. Yeah, people can get political, people can get really weird. So if we make it up and we say they're a bad guy or they're doing something bad, there's no one to yell at. They don't even exist. You know what I mean? Like, that's not even a real company,
Right, but they can
Right.
take on a life of their own too, because
Yes.
from the Werewolf the Apocalypse game, Pentex
Pentext.
Corporation,
Yep. Yep. That's a
infamous,
perfect
it
example.
brightens people's day. So, no, it's a good idea.
Yep. Yeah. So that's what I do. Every month they get a country, they get an organization. And then what I do with that is, not only do I spell out what it is, right? That's the first half of it is like what it is, what their police force is like, what their military is like, just little paragraphs, nothing super huge, enough to run with as a player
So
and
you're
an
building like
administrator.
a CIA World Fact Book for
Perfect.
Top Secret.
Yes, exactly. That was sort of where the inspiration of how I'm doing this
It's a good
came
idea.
from. And then it goes into, then I put in some, usually like fictional organizations. I put in some criminal organizations, some real businesses who might be into some shady stuff or might get involved in shady. They don't have to be bad themselves, but something lends them to being tied up into this. And then
Right.
each one of those organizations has some plot points. Like, you could do this with them or you could do that with them. And it's literally like a sentence or two, just like they could be involved with a satellite data smuggling thing or something, or they're being set up for a blackmailing attempt or whatever. And the administrator can then take that and roll with it. And then the second half of that book is all missions. So it's like I do roughly, usually about 5 missions, and it's basically the mission concept. So that's like a big paragraph, like a big fat paragraph or two. And then underneath of that are potential plot hooks. All right. So here's what the adventure would be about. And then here's some cool stuff you could do in it. And then like the next section is, here are some cool complications for that. Right. And
Wow.
then like I said, there's like 5 of those. And it just goes through all this stuff is cross-pollinating. So every book that has come before it, there'll be reachbacks to those, especially the corporations. So like some of the corporations, to kind of bring this home, is that I got like Castle Security, which is a worldwide contractor, security contractor, aka mercenary group, and they hire out security guards. So if you have a villain who has a base and you want to have security for them, well, it can be Castle Security. That's their security. So then I put all that stuff in there. It really does help get people doing their thing.
That sounds like a good launching off point would be to take one of the 2 teaching modules you got, and using just the basic logic structure they present, you got endless number of adventures being generated on your Patreon. So,
Yep.
well, that might be something to look into. So,
Yeah.
what should people look into if they want to get in touch with you
Okay.
besides the Patreon? Where do they find your Patreon? Where do
All
they
right.
find
So
you?
So you can find us at solariangames.com. That's our hub website. Patreon.com/Solarian. And that's Solarian. We're on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, Instagram. We just opened our Amazon store. We're finally on Amazon now. So if you go to Amazon,
Okay.
you can find us. We sold our first thing today. And then we have a
Congratulations.
weekly podcast that we do, which is just for us to interact with our fans. We don't really promote it or anything, but people come and watch it. And it's called Tabletop Weekly. We just talk about current gaming things.
Cool beans. And I
So
can
that's
verify, if you message Solarian Games on Facebook, this is the guy that's going to answer you. Well,
Yep,
Peter, I've
that's
had a
great.
great time. Thanks for
Thank you.
shedding some light on the drop for us.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on. I really had a great time.
Now, wasn't that interesting? Now, all the points of contact that Peter pointed out in the interview, I've got in the description below. I talked to him quite a bit after the interview and got along with him great. He seemed like a fantastic guy to me. So I look forward to gaming with him at some point in the future. Do you have any thoughts, questions, or comments for Peter or myself about the drop or game design in general? Drop those in the chat. I'd love to see what you got. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this around so more people can get bit with that bug that keeps us so energetic about this hobby. So my dear friends, that's what I got for now. And until next time, I wish you nothing but the best.